Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Middleborough School Committee meeting. I will call the meeting to order. As we've been doing in the past, if you have particular questions, feel free to write them in the chat piece, and we will try to answer them as best we can. Do individual school committee members have anything they wish to report? Seeing no one, and then I will move on to Mr. Catino, who I know is here. I will say first and foremost, and we'll discuss this a little later, but I want to thank Mr. Catino for two reasons. One, we just finished negotiating the memorandum of agreement with the teachers union and the ESP union and the cafeteria union to go to begin school. And also, Mr. Catino's term as president has ended. So he will no longer be joining our meetings, but we do want to take the time to thank him and say, Frank, we appreciate everything that you've done, and I personally appreciate your willingness to have conversations and dialogue well beyond what normally happens, and to be able to work things out before they ever become problems. So thank you very much, Frank.
Well, you're welcome. And I almost a bittersweet school committee meeting for me, but reducing my stress level was something that my oncologist said I needed to try to do. And leaving my job was not one option that I had. So back the union president and giving that over to somebody else, after having done it for 9 years and negotiated 3 contracts, I think I'm ready to let somebody else for a while. They will, we have co-presidents now, change laws, so there'll be 2. Right now they're concentrated. One of the co-presidents is the elementary complex, Kate Lazarovich. The other is from the high school, and that's Samantha Desharnais. And that's going to, I think, help for us to better service our members and better, get in contact with principals and stuff, because there's one from each of the levels, the secondary level and the elementary level. It lends itself better to the actual schedules and getting things done. Because in the past we've had problems with either myself waiting around for the elementary classes and principals to be ready for me to go over there and talk to them, or if we had the elementary, then they weren't able to get up until to the high school level and the secondary level until they were done. So this is going to help that out, spread out the wealth there a little bit. So they will be starting next time. There will be different people. So, but I do. I did enjoy working with the school committee and Mr. Young. A couple of negotiation sessions that we've had, and this last one, I've been looking around and hearing this stuff. There's not a lot of school committees that have finished this particular out. So I think that it's a testament to the fact that we went through that process in the last negotiations to learn how to work together.
Yeah, I would agree with you, Frank.
So anyway, that's it for me. So I will see you guys around. I'll still be teaching in the remote academy though. So.
Well, thank you, Frank. I think Mr. Giovanoni didn't think that we could do it without him, but we've proven that we could. So I appreciate everything, Frank. Does anyone want to say anything to Frank before he signs off for his last school committee meeting? Mr. Oakley, go right ahead.
Oh, Mr. Rowe was first. I don't want to take it.
Mr. Rowe, sorry.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Frank, you've always been a professional and been doing this during good and bad with a good sense of humor, and you've always really looked out what's best for Middleborough, including the teachers, but also the kids. So thank you for everything you've done for the union, and we look forward to this new adventure in hybrid and remote learning. So best of luck.
Thank you.
Mr. Oakley.
Yeah, I also just wanted to say thank you. I think like what you said and what the chair mentioned about how not many school districts have got to this point, I think is a testament to yourself and obviously the negotiating committee. And I want to say I'm going to miss those super cool ties that you always had for school committee meetings. And I wish you the best in health and happiness.
Thank you.
Mr. Ness, you had your hand up, I saw.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So Mr. Oakley kind of took what I was going to say with his ties. So I definitely want to echo that. But I just think that you've done a really great job, Frank, at being a leader as far as anything that has come up with the unions. And that translates into all the schools as people follow your example. So thank you for all of your hard work, especially with this last session of negotiations. So good luck.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions before we? I know the superintendent would like to say something.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, if I could, prior to my report, I just wanted to thank Frank for 5+ years of honest, open dialogue. That were always in the best interests of everyone in the entire school community. So thank you, Frank. And we went to high school together years ago, but who knows, we'd end up in the same room together negotiating contracts and such. But again, I thank you for your again honest, open dialogue and communication. It's always been appreciated.
You're welcome. And that's only 5 years with you. I had previous superintendents I had to deal with too. So.
I can't speak to that.
Well, thank you, Frank. We appreciate it.
All right. I thank you all.
Take care. So at this time, I'll turn it over to the superintendent for the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My first number one is the COVID-19 updates, and I can give you some very specific updates with regard to this past week. It's certainly an advantage to meeting every single week because the days fly by and so many things happen that it's nice to sort of truncate it to inside a week activities or so. This week featured our opening day for our teachers and our ESPs. And, obviously there's some anxieties about returning to school, but that's also sometimes a good thing. Getting folks in and getting folks used to being back in the environment. We've had professional development. That's sort of the second item here. A lot of professional development this week. Some of that professional development has included getting back into their workspaces, getting accustomed back to their workspaces, opening up communication between individuals and departments and teams, grade level teams, and that has occurred this week extensively. We have a couple of new principals in a couple of new schools, so there's been that transition, and all reports are that has gone well. So I think that's important, certainly. We have totally new schedules and totally new positions and people transitioning from different positions and different cohorts, and so all of that rolled up. And I'm certainly, when this idea that we'd have 2 weeks before school opened up for professional development, it stunned me a little bit, but I'm certainly glad that we have it because I do think that we need that time to be ready to open our schools to students, whether we do it in person or virtually. So that was the PD piece. We did announce cohorts this week, and that did go out Monday night. There were some glitches in our computer program, and we apologize to the community for that. Hopefully those are all straightened out by now, and we have those straightened out. When you use massive platforms of information, sometimes they become not so dependable. And in this case, we had a glitch with Aspen, and it is something that had to be worked out, and it was worked out. And hopefully we've resolved everything. I think we have, and allayed the fears of some individuals that may have had plans and submitted plans and submitted requests to principals and were told they were going to get certain cohorts because of their families, et cetera, babysitting. And when that was possible, we were able to do it. But that sort of the original list went out, and as opposed to the cohort list. So again, we apologize for that. So that's sort of this week in a nutshell with regard to the COVID-19 updates, from any committee member with regard to what this week entailed.
I think
I will certainly move on.
Any questions about? We lost you for the last second there at the end, Brian. Sort of froze on me a little.
You broke up there a little bit, Rich. I don't know if everybody else sort of heard that message. It seemed like you were broken up a little bit.
Yeah, you were doing the same to me, so it's probably me. So, do people have questions about the anything to do with the sort of the first week with teachers?
Like I said, occasionally we have computer glitches.
Okay.
I have some frozen school committee members in front of me. Sean is working on the issue.
Thank you. Then I'm just gonna, why don't we just move on a little bit? We'll do the consent agenda if that's okay with everybody.
Mr. Chair,
How about now?
Do we need to take a timeout?
We take a timeout.
rolling.
It's a network speed item at this point. If you could hear me.
You guys are breaking up. I'm gonna try do you guys want to try to move to the consent agenda? Do I have a
Sure.
motion to approve the consent agenda? Do I hear a second?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Oakley? Mr. Rowe?
Aye.
Aye.
Ms. Farley? Did
Aye.
we lose Ms. Janess? Okay. And the chair will vote aye. We do have a quorum with the four of us, so we'll move on from the consent agenda. Brian, you want to try you again?
Oh, there she is.
I know that Sean is here working on the network speed, and that seems to be the issue, and he continues to work on it.
Okay.
We apologize to folks at home. I don't know if can the school committee, with nods of the head, can the school committee hear me clearly?
You're a little broken up, Brian, but not too bad, not as bad as was before, from my end.
Well, the next piece was bringing Dr. Gates on to talk about the technology loan program that we've established with regard to the folks that need technology at home. It's going to be kicked off tomorrow morning. So it's important that you hear that and the community hear that. So, and that information probably has to be fairly clear. So, I don't know whether we take a timeout here.
Can we take a 5-minute break?
The request from Sean is, can we take a 5-minute break?
Yeah, that's fine. We'll go on hiatus for 5 minutes so we can all hear. Okay. I think,
So a temporary adjournment, Mr. Chair?
please, I think the thing out there for everybody to understand is we're getting things in the comments that they can hear everybody fine. We can't hear each other fine. That's the problem. So we're going to take a quick 5-minute break. We'll resume in 5 minutes.
Hey, Teresa, can you hear us?
She's frozen too. Something's causing that.
Should I try to leave and come back?
No, it's us, Teresa.
Okay.
All set? Well, I'm on live, so you tell me. Okay, thanks. So, okay, I was just on the phone with the superintendent. The problem is with the internet connection at the superintendent's office. So I'm going to ask Dr. Melanie Gates to come on board and to bring back the school committee, and Dr. Gates will be presenting to us the technology loan program piece.
Thank you, Chairman
That way,
Young.
everybody.
I'm still getting a bit of
As soon as
glitch
Dr. Gates
on my
gets on.
end from the stream, so I don't know if that is still being experienced by others. But we will try to proceed as best we can. Thank you for the opportunity to speak about our
Technology
device.
is a wonderful thing.
I want another one.
Welcome, Dr. Gates.
So I'm hopeful that everyone is able to follow along at this point. We apologize for the technical issues that we're experiencing, but it just is part and parcel of what 2020 has in store for us. So as nimble as we are, we will continue to adapt on the fly. I just wanted to take this opportunity to share with school committee as well as the community that within the tech department, we felt it was important that we revise some of the protocols that are in place around our device loan program. As we are certainly ramping up the distribution of devices across the district. And what we have created is a care and use guide to provide some just clarity on expectations for our students in how we utilize our technology. So starting tomorrow morning at 7 a.m., we will be beginning our distribution of devices for our 6 through 12 students. The distribution will start at 7 a.m. at both the high school and the middle school, and this is open to all students that are in need of borrowing a device from the district. So it's for the students that are in the online learning academy, as well as our hybrid model, and for those that are coming back for full in-person instruction. That pickup will be going from 7 a.m. to 8:30 a.m. on Friday, which is tomorrow, and we will have a second round on Tuesday from 5 to 7. We figured we would bookend the commute hours for families, so we hope that is convenient. If there is conflict, please reach out to your building principal or myself, and we will arrange that for pickup. The elementary pickup is yet to be determined, so your continued patience in that would be appreciated. We're working hard to make sure that we have the devices ready to go for all. And again, the circumstances of the delayed delivery of the devices that we ordered back in June is certainly putting us in a precocious position, but the tech department is absolutely rising to the challenge and doing all that they can to make sure that we get devices in the hands of our students. So thank you for your patience with that. I am going to do a screen share just to do a quick overview of the care and use guide that we have produced. Just bear with me.
I can hear you. I think other people can hear you too. That's what I'm being
Great.
told.
So I developed a care and use guide. This guide was based off of one that was in place in the Silver Lake Regional School District. I contacted Dr. Jill Proul, the superintendent of schools for Silver Lake, and she granted us permission to reuse their plan. So I'm in great appreciation for the folks at Silver Lake for the opportunity to build off of their great work. So we just thought it was important to further clarify our expectations around our device loan program so people would understand our expectations. Not only are there expectations within this, but we also have built in an opportunity for folks to receive support for their device. We have built in a Google form that is linkable through this program, which once we receive the support of our school committee, we will be making publicly available. This document will also be given out in hard copy to families as they pick up their devices starting tomorrow at 7 a.m. But this document clarifies some of our expectations around how we want students to be able to use their loaned devices. The care that they show for those devices will help us make sure that they have a long life and viable life for all students who would be borrowing devices. So we hope that this document provides some useful information for you all. Accompanying this will also be a device loan agreement, which just is a briefer document summarizing some of our expectations, as well as a sign off just to verify what equipment was received, so that we can have a proper inventory of the equipment as it goes out. At this time, we do not have our hotspots in just yet, but we are expecting the arrival of them soon. All of us in education are pulling from the same resources when it comes to technology, and we're all just doing our best to get it in and get it processed and get it out to our students and families. I don't have an estimated date of arrival on that. I just received notification today that the order was in process through Verizon for the hotspots. So, we're continuing to do all we can to make sure that the devices are available for those that are in need. I know I've seen some questions about if your child has a device at home, but you're not letting your child bring the device in, do you need to do pickup? And the answer to that is no. We will just make sure that a device is available in school for students that need them. If they have a device at home to use, that is great, and we appreciate families being able to support their children in that capacity. The pickup for Chromebooks is not for all schools. Currently, we're only doing distribution for grades 6 through 12 because those devices are prepped and ready to go. Once we do the distribution for 6-12, we will be then assigning devices to students at the elementary level based upon the need as expressed through the surveys that did go out from principals. So that is the brief overview that I have of the care and use guide as it currently stands, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that folks may have.
Melanie, the only other question I saw was people asked for the pickup, will they be getting out of their cars and going in the building?
You came across a little broken in that, Chairman Young, but I was guessing it's something about will people just come up in their car to retrieve the vehicle?
Yes.
I hope I captured the essence of that question. And that is our plan. So at the high school, we're asking families drive up around to the front of the building. Sean will be leading the charge at the high school for distribution. So Sean and his team will, of course, greet our families, and we will process the issuing of the device through their car. Of course, we will be wearing masks. We will also be wearing gloves as we'll be handling multiple devices. The devices were, after we had them all staged today, were sprayed down with the electrostatic sprayers just to take that extra precaution with them. The same would be happening at the middle school. I'll be at the middle school facilitating distribution there, and we ask that families pull up to the bus loop because the devices are housed in the library, and we'll be able to use the rear exit of the library for more immediate access to the bus loop for distribution. So that is our plan as we currently have it. So we would not be asking families to get out of their vehicles to come into the cars. Just simply pull up to the front of the high school, pull up to the bus loop at the middle school. We will greet you from there and process the issuing of the device. We do ask that parents come to pick up the device, even for our high school students, because once the care and use guide is published, you will see within it, and pardon me for not mentioning this as I was doing the sharing, but we think that it's important that students take personal responsibility for the device that's being issued to them. Accidents do happen, but if you're being negligent in the care of the device and as a result of your negligence, that device is damaged, we would like people to be, personally responsible for it. Obviously, again, mistakes do happen, but we are, expecting that if people do damage to those devices, that they would help in covering the cost of that because, that replacing a screen, replacing a keyboard, replacing a touchpad, repairing a hard drive, putting in a new motherboard, those are all things that do have expense. And if it's malicious damage, things that are done intentionally, we just feel that is a more appropriate course of action.
Any other questions for Dr. Gates?
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Oakley.
Thank you very much, Dr. Gates. I was wondering if you could tell us how many devices are committed already, and do you expect to be fully committed after 6 through 12 picks up before we get our shipment in of the 2,000?
That question was broken up a little bit, but I think I got every other word or so. So as it stands right now, we have been one-to-one at the secondary level for some years now. So we have had one device for every child at the secondary level. We did ask in the survey at the secondary level if families did allow their child to bring their own device, that they let us know. So that would allow us to take a device that would normally be assigned to that child to repurpose it to the elementary level. Prior to excluding the counts at the high school level, we had about 300 devices at MKG and 300 devices at HBB, and we had 75 tablets for MEC. So we are able to take some devices that would normally be assigned at the secondary level and reissue them at the elementary level. As it stands right now, I do not have a firm count on this. We're still waiting for the survey results to come in at the elementary level, because some families are being gracious in allowing their child to bring in a device to use during school. So that will offset some of the demand. Once we do the secondary level distribution, myself and the team will recalibrate and look at what we have and what the demands are for devices at the elementary, and I will have a better grasp upon that. But we also have a large number of requests coming in from faculty and staff that in full disclosure, I have not had an opportunity to process, because our sole focus right now is on our students and making sure that they have the technology needed. And once we take care of that, we will assess where we are for staff devices. But it is a very, we're in a bit of a precocious position with the devices that we have. The delay in the shipment of not only the 2,000 Chromebooks, but the 275 high school student devices and the 91 teacher devices for the high school has really put us in a bind. And this bind is not just in Middleborough. I was conversing with a colleague in Foxborough, and they're in the same position. And I know that there are many other districts that are like this. So, and I even know if you went to go try and buy a Chromebook yourself at a store, there's nary a one to find on the shelf. So it's a difficult situation for us all, which is why we appreciate the patience and support of our community. And, just please be rest assured we're doing all we can with what we have to make sure that we take care of our students and families.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions? Dr. Gates, thank you very, very much. Anything else that you have for us, Dr. Gates?
Thank you all for the opportunity, and I appreciate, as always, the support not only of the school committee, but of our greater community as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Gates. We really only have two other pieces that we really have to deal with given our technical difficulties. The first is there's a MOA, which is a memorandum of agreement that we engaged in with the secretaries. Just so everyone understands, primarily the problem that we had with the secretaries.
Thank you very much.
Was that according to their contract, they have Good Friday off. We were having classes on Good Friday this year. So in exchange for that, we gave them a floating holiday. So with that, the chair would entertain a motion to approve the MOA.
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. Mr. Oakley?
Aye.
Ms. Janess?
Aye.
Mr. Stevens?
He's on the Facebook delay.
I'm waiting. Mr. Rowe?
Aye.
Aye. All right, see, and we got everybody, so thank you.
Aye.
I know Ms. Farley's having problems coming back in, so the motion passes.
Mr. Rowe?
The other piece, as we discussed, Ms. Farley's coming in now.
And we got everybody, so thank you. I know
I'm getting some
Ms.
nasty
Farley's having
feedback.
problems coming back in. So the motion passes.
So the other piece is to allow me, so if people are listening on Facebook, if they could turn it down because I'm getting the delay, thank you very much. The only other piece that we have is the memorandum of agreement we have with both with the teachers union, the ESP union, and the cafeteria workers. This was negotiated by myself, Mr. Stevens, the superintendent, and Dr. Gates. As everyone can see, the primary focus of it has been almost solely about safety. There is no additional dollars or anything like that in this contract. It's just about the safety protocols and what's going to happen. In my opinion, the true heroes of this, in my mind, are our custodians, because I think for a lot of the teachers, a lot of their issues were addressed, and when they were able to walk into class and see what the custodians had done to make the school safe, really worked for them. And so for Hutch and his crew, they did an amazing job, and I do want to thank them. Does anyone have any particular questions about the MOA? And I do apologize, it's not on the agenda, but we literally settled it today. So, Mr. Oakley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Let's see. So I guess I just had two questions. Number one, my first question was on section 11B, where it talks about social distancing. And I think it sounds very reasonable. And by the way, just as an aside, the whole agreement seems like it's a very reasonable agreement. And I appreciate the work that you and Greg Stevens and Mr. Lynch and Mr. Catino and everyone did, especially to get this done as quickly as you did. I just wondered, there's a sentence in there that talks about this includes space for moving in the room as necessary to perform duties. And I just wondered if we knew of any issues that we were going to have in any classrooms, or if this is just a standard thing and we're all set.
So I'm looking at 11B right now. No, so what was able to happen is, just so everyone knows, was that Hutch was able to make the teachers 6 feet away from the students. The teachers would still have access to the whiteboards, and they'd be able to, the students are essentially 3 feet apart, but as required by the state. But the 6 foot piece is teachers to students. It's also there to give teachers an opportunity to move around, if you will, Rich, while they're teaching their class. And I mean move around probably in a more confined space than teachers are used to. The students are essentially 3 feet apart.
And Mr. Chair, if it's okay, I just had one last question and then I'll let everyone else go. Section 7, it mentions the evaluation committee, and I just wondered, what is that committee and who's on that?
Sure. So the safety committee is a committee that's already included in the teacher's contract. There are 2 representatives essentially from us. One is the superintendent and the other is to be determined. The evaluation committee. I apologize. I'm looking at the wrong one. The evaluation committee has been Dr. Gates and several members of the union have worked, and the principals have worked together to go over the evaluations.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Any other questions? It's been just Rich also to note that it's been an evaluation committee that we have had work together for quite some time, especially when the state added new language to evaluations.
Got it. Thanks.
Any other questions about the MOA? Ms. Janess.
I had 2. So if teachers are working remotely, are they going to be allowed to work from home?
The teachers will be allowed to work from home.
Okay. And then if someone tests positive and they're required to quarantine, does that come out of their sick
I couldn't
time?
really hear that one. Can you
Sorry. If someone is required to quarantine because there was a student that tested positive or another teacher in the building tested positive, does that come out of their sick time?
So the way we discussed it was if somebody is required to quarantine, doesn't mean they can't teach classes remotely unless they are sick. And if they are sick, then there's a process they will go through. But the piece in there is is that if for some reason people could continue to work, they would work.
Okay, thanks.
Other questions? So chair would entertain a motion to to allow the chair to sign the MOA with those three unions.
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Then I'll go around. Mr. Oakley,
Aye.
Ms. Janess,
Aye.
Mr. Stevens, Mr. Rowe,
So,
Aye.
Ms. Farley,
aye.
and the chair votes aye. That is essentially all. The only piece that we had left was the third read on the policy, but we can take that up at the next meeting.
Aye.
So if no one objects, chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Just a discussion. Mr. Oakley,
Aye.
Ms. Janess,
Aye.
Mrs. Farley,
Aye.
Mr. Rowe,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye, and we will see everybody next Thursday. Thank you, everybody.